So, yeah, good morning. So, in the last session, we talked about web application vulnerabilities. We covered all the topics. That the last topic was SQL injection, where I told you about SQL map. So that was the end of the module number 15. That was SQL injection. And today we are going to start with the next module, that is module number 17. Sorry, module number 16. So let me share my screen and let's continue. So in this module, we'll talk about hacking wireless network. So this module is all about wireless networks. So first of all, we need to understand some topics about wireless networks. We need to know what is wireless network, what are different terms related with it. So let's start with some of the basic terminologies like AP or WAP. So what is AP and WAP? So it's also called as access point or wireless access point. So this is a specific device. It's a device that we set up in our network so that our wireless devices can be connected to our normal LAN. And that type of LAN is called as WLAN, wireless local area network. So let's suppose we have wireless devices in our network like mobile phone, laptops, we have smart cameras, we have smart watches, smart TV, and we do not want them to be a part of a wired network. We want them to be a part of wireless network. So what we will do is we will set up a device, a physical device in our network, which is called as access point or wireless access point, which will allow or which will help our wireless devices to be a part of the network so that they can also communicate within the network. So that in order to set up or in order to satisfy that requirement, we have this device which is called as access point. Now, every wireless device has a very popular component in it which is called as antenna. So what is antenna? So antenna is a physical component that is present in every wireless device like access point, mobile device, laptop, your IoT, your your wireless device, mobile phone wants to communicate with your laptop or with the router or with the access point that you have in the network. So how it is going to do that? It requires to send these signals, wireless signals, which we call as radio frequency. So these radio frequencies, we need to transmit them from one device to another device. And in order to do that, we require a physical component in every wireless device, which is called as antenna. Okay. So this helps you to send as well as to receive these wireless radio frequencies through which your devices can communicate in the network. Okay. And always remember one thing, that inside the network only you will find the requirement of access point, because you have wireless devices inside the network itself. We do not have any kind of wireless devices that is working on the like outside the network. Okay. Let's suppose you are in a network, so there only you will find wireless devices. Otherwise, all of your network, whether you are reaching from here to Google, here to Facebook, here to GICACH, any website, so that communication is going with wires, with the help of wires. It's happening. Okay, it's a part of wired communication. But inside a network, you will find wireless devices because those wireless devices provides us mobility. We can move with our devices from one place to another place and still be a part of the network. So in order to satisfy that requirement, we require wireless networks. And in order to set up them, we require access points, and every wireless device will have a physical component inside it, which is called as antenna. Now there are two types of antenna that we have. First one is called as unidirectional, and second one is called as omnidirectional. So this unidirectional means it's a single direction communication. So there are a lot of antennas which are present. They can only send and transmit signals in a single direction, not on all directions. It can only cover a single direction and can send and receive signals according to it. Like we have these TV antennas, we have these airport also we have different kind of antennas who are taking data from satellites, and in order to like wherever your satellite is locating above your earth surface, so at that specific location we have to point the antenna, and those antennas are called as unidirectional because what advantage they have is they can communicate with those devices that are very far away from your antenna. Okay, so it provides you more, it covers more distance basically. And if we talk about omnidirectional, then they do not cover much space or much distance, but what they do is they cover 360 degree. They provide you the connectivity onto 360 degree. Means, let's say you have your access point set up anywhere inside your home, so it will provide a spherical coverage to you, and that spherical coverage means it will provide you coverage left to the your access point, right to the access point, above the access point, downwards of the access point, in front of the access point, and in the back of the access point. Means it will provide you the 360-degree coverage. So those antennas are called as omnidirectional. Okay, so that is the advantage of it, that they provide you the connectivity or coverage in a spherical area. But yes, that is why their range is also less. But the range of unidirectional is high, and their coverage is only in a single direction. So that is the main difference between these two types of antenna. Now there are some terms that we need to understand. So let's start with those terms. First we have BSSID, and second one we have SSID. And apart from that, we have something called it ESSID. So we need to know these three terms. BSSID stands for Basic Service Set Identifier. SSID stands for Service Set Identifier. And ESSID stands for Extended Service Set Identifier. Now, what these terms are, let's understand them, because when you will be performing practicals of hacking wireless networks, then you will be using these terms. So first is BSSID. What is BSSID? It is the MAC address of your access point. It's the MAC address of access point. So MAC address, we know it's a physical address that is like hard coded to it at the time of manufacturing of the device, and through that address you normally communicate inside the network. So that address of an access point is called as BSS ID. Then the second one that we have is called as SSID. It is service set identifier, and it is the name of your wireless network. So it's the name that we assign to a physical wireless network. So that name is called as service set identifier. So if I show you, when we click on the Wi-Fi option, we see different SSIDs here. We see GICSCH 5G, GICSCH Global, Airtelnish. So these are different networks that we have in the surrounding, and this name of the network is called as SSID. That is the name of the wireless network. And ESSID is also the same. It's also the name of the wireless network. But what is the difference between them? It's also the name of the wireless network, but like how we differentiate SSID with ESSID. So in SSID, you can think it of as a network which is having single access point. If you have one access point, that is providing the wireless network to you. So it is called as SSID. But let's say you have a very large area to cover. You have a campus to cover, college campus, your university campus, and in that campus, you require at least 10 to 20 access points so that they can provide you coverage throughout the campus in first floor, second floor, third floor, canteen, in ground area, and in every building, every place you require the internet connectivity. So for that, you require more than one access point. And at that time, your service set identifier is extended to extended service set identifier. So it is also the name of the wireless network, but it's a network which is broadcasted by more than one access point. So if you have more than one access point that is broadcasting a single network, that is called as extended service set identifier, which is the name of the wireless network. So either you might find SSID or you might find ESSID. So yeah, it is just telling you that this is the name of the wireless network. So the difference between them is SSID only tells you the name of the wireless network, which is hosted by a single access point, but ESSID tells you the name of the wireless network, which is hosted by more than one access point. So it is called as ESSID. So these terms we need to know before starting the concept of wireless hacking. Apart from that, you also need to know the concept of authentication. What is authentication? We already know it's a process of verifying the identity of the user, whosoever is participating in the process of authentication. Okay. So why we are talking about authentication here? Because in order to connect to a wireless network, you need to provide the password to it. Okay, we have to provide the password of the wireless network. And that password that we provide or that we will provide is called as PSK. It's pre-shared key. So we'll talk about it, but there are three types of authentication that we need to know. First is open authentication. And open authentication means the networks which are open. Open means they do not have any password. So when you want to connect to it or you want to associate with those networks, you just click on it and you just got connected to it. You do not have to provide any kind of password. Like some public networks, they are open. Okay. So that type of authentication where you do not have to provide anything as the password, that is called as open authentication. Second is called as shared authentication. So what is shared authentication? Here you require a password. When you provide a password and you become a part of the network, so it's called as shared authentication. And here we require something called as PSK. So what's PSK? It's pre-shared key. If we talk about the full form of it, then you can call it as pre-shared key. So pre-shared key is nothing just the password, but normally in terms of wireless networks, we call it as PSK. Okay, so it's the password of the wireless network, which we provide in order to connect with the network. Then in enterprise level, we have another type of authentication, which is called as centralized. So what is centralized authentication? Centralized authentication is when we have a particular server that authenticates us and helps us to be a part of the network. So it is called as centralized authentication, and that is uh, basically what we have inside enterprise networks. So in enterprise networks, we have centralized authentication mechanism, and there we use a very popular protocol that is that must be running on a server that should be located in the centralized location. And this protocol is called as Radius. So it's remote authentication dial in user service. So it's a protocol, you can write it as remote authentication dial in user service. So this is the full form of it, Radius. And this is a protocol that must be running on a server. And using this protocol, the employees of the network, the employees who are connected to an enterprise network, they have to provide their credentials, their username and their password in order to be a part of the network. So when an organization uses the enterprise version of these authentication mechanism, then they go for centralized authentication, and that point of time they might require a protocol called as Radius, which confirms the identity of the user through their username and password. So they got to know that which user wants to connect, and the user has to provide his correct password through which the user normally accesses all the services which are running in the network. So that kind of authentication is called as centralized authentication. Okay. So you can, in bracket, you can mention it as it's the enterprise network. It's the enterprise authentication that you might require. Now, apart from authentication, we have some encryption standards also. So these are called as wireless encryption standards. So we have multiple like encryption standards, and the oldest one is called as WEP, that is wired equivalent privacy. It's called as wired equivalent privacy. The second one that we have is WPA, then WPA2, and then WPA3. These different three versions of WPA we have, and the latest one is WPA3 only, which is providing you better security. But the other versions, WPA and WPA2, they uses very old algorithms that are not that much secure. So this one is called as Wi-Fi protected access. So Wi-Fi protected access means it's a network where you provide encryption to the password as well as to the communication that is happening within the access point and the end devices. So because there was a very popular vulnerability with WEP, and this vulnerability was related with, like, you were not able to, like, people were using their passwords to connect to the network, and that password was not hashed. That password was not converted to a hash form. That was the most popular vulnerability that was there in WEP, and that is why it was discontinued. And at that time, WPA was the one which provides you better security. And the most secure version of it is now called as WPA3. Now, all these versions like WPA and WPA2 and WPA3, they have WPA two categories. First one is WPA PSK, and second one is WPA Enterprise. So WPA has two versions, WPA PSK, WPA Enterprise. Then WPA2 also has two versions, which is WPA PSK and WPA Enterprise. Okay, so you need to know that yes, these versions means you are requiring second mechanism with PSK and you are using third mechanism with Enterprise. So these are different security standards that you need to know. So the most insecure one is WEP, and the most secure one is WPA3. Okay, and yes, we have WPA, these PSK and Enterprise for all three: WPA, WPA2, and WPA3. Okay, so that is the thing about the basics about the wireless network. And now let's talk about the attacks on it. So let's discuss the attacks on wireless networks. So we have few attacks that are discussed in this course. So let's talk about them. The first one is called as deauthentication attack. So deauthentication attack means in this attack, we will try to disconnect a device from the network, or we can try to disconnect all the devices of the network. So the authentication attack is an attack on the wireless network where we send malicious deauth packets to access points on the behalf of a device so that the access point thinks that the device wants to disconnect from the network. So if we keep on sending those deauth packets towards the access point on the behalf of a device, then it will try to disconnect, it will keep on disconnecting that device from the network until the attacker stops the attack. Or the second category of this attack can be the attacker can use this attack to disconnect all the devices which are currently a part of the network. The attacker can try to disconnect all the devices from the network. That is again another use case of deauthentication attack. So the overall concept of this attack is to disconnect the devices of the device from the network, from the access point, so that they have to re-authenticate and then be a part of the network. So if the attacker keep on sending these packets, then those devices will still be disconnected from the network. The second attack is called as cracking Wi-Fi password. So cracking wireless password or Wi-Fi password is again another attack that we will try to perform, and we'll see how we can try to crack the password of Wi-Fi or wireless network. What is the process of it and how we can do that, whether it is a WPA, WEP, WPA2 or WPA3, whether it is all kinds of network, we can still try to crack their Wi-Fi password using a mechanism, using a very popular toolkit, which is called as AirCrackNG. So we'll be installing this toolkit on our Kali if it is not installed by default. So we'll be installing the tool and then we will be performing the practicals on it. So this attack is very, it's very simple to understand because it requires you to crack the password of the wireless network so that the attacker can become a part of the network. Then we have jamming signal attack. So jamming signal attack is again another wireless attack that jams the signal of a specific device, and then what happens is the device will or those wireless signals will not be able to transmit within the network. So let's say over here the attacker, they use a specific component, a specific device called as jammer, and that jammer is used to jam these wireless signals, whether those signals are coming from your mobile devices, whether they are coming from your wireless devices, they are your Wi-Fi signals, they are your Bluetooth signals, hotspot, airdrop, any kind of wireless signals can be jammed using this particular attack called as jamming signal attack. So yeah, this attack basically requires a physical component, a physical device. You do not have any tool that can perform this attack, but yes, you require some physical devices in order to jam the traffic of a specific area. So yeah, there we use jammers. Okay. So it's basically like it's not legal to use jammers in public places because yeah, you require permission from the government in order to use them. So yeah, definitely if you have a jammer, then you can try it within the network. But if you try it outside the outside your home or outside your private space, then it is illegal to be used. So yeah, so that is the concept of jamming signal attack.
Can we see the practical on this jamming signal attack?
We require jammers, so that is why, because we do not have any jammer here. So these components can be built if you know the concepts of electrics, like electronics. If you know the concepts of electronics, if you know how these circuits are built, then you can build a jammer for yourself that that can try to block the signals within a specific range.
Okay.
So yeah, this is an attack which is mentioned here in this course, but yeah, we cannot have any practical on it because we do not have any jammer here.
Okay.
The next attack that we have is called as evil twin attack. So evil twin attack means this specific attack will be creating another access point with the same name. Let's say you want to, this attack is again used to crack the password of a wireless network. Okay. So for cracking password, we have this attack, cracking Wi-Fi password, and we use another specific attack, which is very popular and it is known to be used, and it's called as evil twin attack. So what is the scenario of this attack is, first of all, when the attacker is performing the evil twin attack, the attacker needs to create a duplicate of the same network which is running in the proximity of the attacker. So let's say that Wi-Fi or the wireless name is global. So the attacker needs to create another, the attacker will create another network with the same name, global, and will try to deauthenticate the original network. so that all the devices of the original network will be disconnected from it and then will be connected to the second network, or will try to connect to the second network which is created by the attacker. And in the second network, what the attacker will do is attacker will create a captive portal. What is captive portal? Captive portal is a phishing page which is created by the attacker. On that phishing page, the attacker will write a message or a warning or a notification kind of thing that your access point is under maintenance. It's not working properly. So if you want to be a part of the network, you can provide your password here on this web page. So what will happen when the victims will try to connect with that web page, will try to connect with the malicious Wi-Fi which is created by the attacker, then they will be redirected to their website, to a web page. Their browser will open and they will be redirected to a website where they will be asked to provide the password. And if they provide the wrong password, then they will be shown a message that your password is incorrect. And if they provide the correct password, then that password is sent to the attacker, and attacker knows the password of the wireless network. And how this comparison process is working, like how your website is able to compare whether the password is correct or not, because when the attacker will be jamming, like the authenticating this network, then what he will be doing is he must have captured the password hash of the wireless network while performing the attack, and it will just try to compare the passwords which are provided by the users to confirm whether the password is matching or not. And if the password is not matching, then this captive portal will show you a message on the screen that your password is not working. You have to retype your password, and then only you will be able to use it. So that is what you can do with the help of evil twin attack. So in this attack, you do not require any word list, because for cracking password, we require a word list. So for evil twin attack, we do not require any word list, and we can easily try to crack the password of, or we can try to get the password using this attack. Now, for this attack, basically for performing all these attacks that we have here, you require wireless adapters. And these wireless adapters, like on our Kali, when our Kali is running in virtual environment, then we do not have any Wi-Fi option inside our Kali, because our Kali is a part of a wired network. It's getting the connection from my device, from our host device, with the help of a wire. So it's not connected with wireless network. It's a part of the wired network. That is why we get the interface name as Ethernet 0 or ETH 0. But we never find the wireless interface like WLAN 0, WLAN 1, or these kind of interfaces we never find on Kali when it is running on virtual environment. So what you require is, if your Kali is running in virtual environment, then you require a physical adapter, a physical wireless adapter, and that adapter should have some specific requirements that it should fulfill. The second way is you can run the Kali on your host machine using live boot or using dual boot. You can run Kali on your host machine, and then if your main system's adapter, wireless adapter, if it supports these requirements that I'm going to discuss right now. So if it supports those requirements, then again you can perform the attack. Otherwise, you cannot perform the attack. You might require an external adapter only for both situations, because our hardware component might not it's not built for all these things. So it's better if you purchase any external adapter for performing all these practicals. Otherwise, you might have to replace your physical adapter, your main systems adapter, with a new one. That can be a problem for us. So yeah, because our adapters are not made for attacking purposes, they are just made to provide connectivity. And that is what, as an attacker, you should keep in mind. So it's better if you're running it on virtual machine and you require a physical adapter for that. And that physical adapter, if you're purchasing, then it should have some requirements that it should fulfill. The first one is it should have monitor mode. It should have monitor mode. So what is monitor mode? Normally our system is made for, our wireless adapter is made to just connect to a single network. It can just help us to be a part of a single network and cannot provide us any information about other networks which are running in our surrounding. But when we change the mode of wireless adapter from managed to monitor, the managed one is the mode which supports a single network. But when we convert our mode to monitor mode, then it increases its capability and provides us the access of other wireless packets which are transmitting. So if our access point, if our wireless adapter is running in monitor mode, then we have the option of gathering information about other networks which are running in our surrounding. So for that, we require monitor mode, without which you cannot perform any of these practicals. The second thing is you require another capability, which is packet injection. Your adapters should have another capability, which is packet injection. Means it should have the capability of sending some malicious packets towards the access point, towards other devices which are present in the network. So it should have the capability of that. It should be able to inject packets in the network. So that is what this technique is for, and this should be present with your wireless adapter. Third thing is, now these two things are very, very important. Okay. Third thing is it should support Linux. If your adapter is not supporting Linux, then it will not work. So it should definitely support Linux OS. Okay, so that is the next requirement that that your adapter should follow. So it should support the Linux OS. So these three things are very, very important. And apart from that, some things that you can add, like if you add them, then yeah, it will give you more benefit. So the next thing is your adapter should work in dual band. It should be a dual band adapter. So what is dual band? Dual band means, now normally if you see wireless networks in your surrounding, so they are using two wireless frequency band. They are either running on 2.4 gigahertz frequency, or they are either running on 5 gigahertz frequency. Okay, so these are different networks that we have in our surrounding. They might be running on 2.4 or they might be running on 5 gigahertz frequency. And for that, you require a wireless adapter that should support dual band. So dual band means a wireless adapter that has the capability of capturing the packets of both of these frequency bands. Whether the network is running on 2.4 or 5, it should have the capability of capturing both of these networks. Otherwise, the normal adapters which are coming, they are only coming for 2.4 gigahertz frequency, and they can only show you 2.4 gigahertz networks which are present in your surroundings. So if you want to target the 5 gigahertz network, then you need to have a wireless adapter that should support dual band. And the last requirement that can be added, which is very required for performing this attack. So for performing evil twin attack, you not only require these things, you require another thing also, which is access point mode. Means your adapter should have a mode that could convert it into an access point. Because you know that in evil twin attack, you have to create an access point, a malicious access point of your choice. So for performing the evil twin attack, we require the access point mode also. And this mode, without this mode, your normal adapters cannot host an access point. They cannot be converted into an access point. So for performing the evil twin attack, basically we require at least two wireless adapters, and one of them should be having these capabilities also. One of them should have this capability also, that is access point mode. Otherwise, you will not be able to perform this attack, because normal adapters, they cannot host access point, and without hosting an access point, you cannot create your malicious twin. You cannot have your evil twin. So that is why we require the fifth requirement that we should focus on, that is access point mode. So like all these requirements except the dual band, that is not that much important, but yes, others are important. First three and last one is required at least for performing all of these attacks. And we have one very popular adapter which is called as Alpha, that you can purchase if you are interested in performing these attacks. But yes, it is a little bit costly in India. I'm not sure what's in the US, but yes, this is the one that we can use for performing all those attacks. And this is if you want to use this one, then it supports dual band. Because from normally from this antenna we can uh, confirm that this must be using single band, and if you have two antennas, then it must be using dual band. If you have four antennas, then two of them will be working in 2.4 gigahertz and other two will be working on 5 gigahertz. So yeah, you can opt for a dual band or you can go for a single band adapter, which should support access point mode. So all of these, yeah, they support the access point mode. That is the capability that they have. So yeah, that is the thing that you require to perform at least all these attacks which we have here. And now the last attack that I want to discuss here is the rogue access point attack. Now, rogue access point attack is not that very hard to perform because it's very simple. You just need to establish a malicious access point of yourself, means you just need to start your hotspot and name the hotspot with any popular public cafe wherever you are available. Let's say you are available in a place where you have multiple cafes, so you can create a hotspot with the same name as the one which is running in your surrounding. And then you can either keep it open for all, means you can go for the open authentication for it. In that situation, you will not have to set any password to it. And also you can go for shared authentication where you might have to set the password to it, and that password should be same as the original public Wi-Fi network that you can simply ask from the owner. Or if you want to crack, yeah, you can crack them using these attacks. So rogue access point attack just helps the attacker to connect the victim to attacker's network. So if your victim is looking for a network, then you can provide your network. And if the victim thinks, yes, I want to be a part of this network, so the victim will just click on the network, will provide the password by asking the owner, and then will be a part of your network. And that is how you and your victim will be in the same network where you can perform all these attacks like scanning the device, then gaining access, maintaining access, injecting the device with malware. All those things you can do at that point of time when your victim is also a part of your network. So the objective of rogue access point attack is to connect the victim to your own network, and then you can perform any attack of like whatever attack you want to perform over the victim. So that is the objective of rogue AP attack. So these are different attacks, and yeah, we have different adapter requirements that you need to fulfill, that you need to support in order to perform the practical of wireless network. So these are the things that we have covered theoretically in this module. So now let's perform the practicals of it and see how we can perform these attacks. So I have a wireless adapter with me, so I'll be using that adapter, and I need to connect it to my network, to the device first. So I've connected it. Let me